Hello, John Najarian here. If you want to trade like a rebel, if you want to party like a rebel, well, you got to come to RebelCon 2022. It's going to be in Dallas, Texas, at the fabulous Four Seasons Resort. We start the 21st of September, go until September 24th. It will be more fun and more live trading than we've ever done before. That's why it's called RebelCon 2022. We're going to have barbecues and double the amount of live trading. So if you want to book that now, make sure you do, because the guest speakers, as soon as we announce those, this thing's going to be sold out. It's going to be something you do not want to miss. Limited to 250 people. Diamond, platinum, and gold packages are selling out. Sign up now for RebelCon 2022 at the Four Seasons in Dallas, Texas.
Welcome to the Rebellion.
And here we go again. You know what? The ride just continues to go on and on and on. And I'll tell you, I've been watching a lot of things very closely in terms of what looks to me like algorithms, and a lot of the trade that's been going on. We're going to get into that in just a second. Yesterday, looking at the markets were down. Started off the day in negative territory, down about 200 points. NASDAQ was down as well. And then it closer towards late morning, early afternoon, you get a pretty nice flip and things start to just be off to the races. Matter of fact, the NASDAQ finished the day up about 115 points. The Dow itself really ran pretty nicely, up 260 points. So a big turnaround. Now, what was part of that turnaround? Well, I can tell you this, and when I say the algorithms to me, especially on a low volume day, we only traded 32 million contracts yesterday. We've been averaging 42 million for the year. We had 42 million average in the month of May. We get into June, and the volumes have been very, very low. I think the average right now is about 35 million a day. Yesterday, 32 million. So we're even well below that. Shows you a little bit of something. But as you've got those kind of markets in front of you, take a look at what the 10-year looks like and do an inverse relationship, and it tells you exactly what I'm talking about. These algorithms are plugged in and moving markets around based upon where the 10-year is. So we started off the day with the 10-year above 3, finished off the day with the 10-year well below 3, 295, down a couple of percent. We saw that big flip, and all you got to do is take a look, match those up, and I'm telling you, it's something that it definitely does stand out, at least for right now. It doesn't mean these things always work like that, but over the last, I don't know how many trading sessions, we can certainly see when the 10 years moving in one direction. You can take a look over at the NASDAQ specifically, but the markets themselves see exactly what I'm talking about. So crude got all the way up again near that 120 level and got people a little bit excited about that. We have volatility. Now everybody's talking about the volatility index because of the fact that it's just not moving very much. And here we are with some pretty volatile markets if you look at the intraday moves, but volatility still hanging around those 24s. You got Bitcoin above 31,000. That was something because that's been getting beat around a little bit and holding up a little bit better maybe than it had been or expected. So yesterday, the lead dog all day long was energy. No doubt about it. Up about 3% yesterday. It was the beta names. It was just about any aspect of energy was reacting yesterday and was on the leadership path there. We have names like APA. You've got Valero. You've got Marathon Oil. You've got Phillips 66. You've got Schlumberger. You've also got the big boys. You've got Chevron. You got Exxon. Exxon, well over 100 yesterday. Gives you a little bit of an idea. Throw in ConocoPhillips. All of them were ripping to the upside. Industrials were having a pretty good day as well, led by names like Boeing and Honeywell and Caterpillar, Lockheed Martin, another one of those names that was very strong yesterday. Healthcare also. Jump around a little bit. You see names like J&J, you see Merck, you see Pfizer, you see Bristol Myers, all those names actually participating very, very nicely. Technology. Yeah, they started working pretty good yesterday as well. Take a look what happened with Apple and Facebook. You got a nice move to the upside. Netflix, throw in Microsoft. Microsoft has not been thrown out, guys. Microsoft's still around and reacting very nicely. They gave it the FX move news last week. And since that time, things on the days where we start to see some of these moves, Microsoft's been participating as well. The participation of the Chinese names really does stand out. And I've been talking about this now for a while here on the take, because each and every day, now it used to be one step forward, two steps back. Now we're seeing a completely different story, 2 or 3 steps forward, maybe 1 step back. But it seems like almost every day we've been seeing the Chinese names really kind of having a pretty big leadership role and being influential on the NASDAQ and different parts of the marketplace. Names like JD, Tencent's another one of those names. Alibaba yesterday, Baba was up about 5%, gives you a little bit of an idea. How about PDD? That was up 10% yesterday. So these are not just positive territory, but big moves that we're seeing from some of those names. I mentioned the beta energy names, the APAs of the world. I throw in a little bit of Moderna, the airlines as well. You had United, you had American, you had Delta, all in positive territory yesterday. A little bit of weakness from Amazon, a little bit something from Ross Stores. You had Mosaic and Etsy, but they've been bouncing around a little bit of late for sure. Target, definitely one of the names. That was the name of the day yesterday. They had me come on the halftime, talk a little bit about that one. Let's just remember this. The focus that Target decided to take was a very aggressive one, very similar to what Target had done about Canada. It was an aggressive move early on when the CEO presently, Brian Cornell, stepped in. One of the things he did almost immediately was he addressed the issues that they had with Canada and how Target wasn't working in Canada. They addressed it. They eliminated it. This is exactly what I'm seeing today and yesterday, rather, when they started to focus upon, all right, we overbought. We've got certain areas of the marketplace that we had way too much inventory. We're going to have to fire sale it, but we are going to fire sale it. We're going to get it out of here because this is going to be a 1 quarter problem. And that's exactly how they approached that. So when you looked at the second half, you looked at the operating margins, they are calling for them to be a lot closer to normal or what had been projected before, something closer to a 5 or 6 as opposed to the 2% for the quarter. So that was a really aggressive move yesterday, and maybe that's why we had the move that we did in the stock, where initially really hit to the downside. And as people started thinking about it and going through the numbers and seeing where Target's PE looks like right now, I know the margins obviously are going to be impacted, but all of that coming together seemed to be part of the reason why the stock really didn't get as hammered at the close. It stayed where it had been and held up very nicely, well off the lows of the day, especially some of those early morning lows. We also had names like Whirlpool had a very nice day yesterday as well. So as we come into today, people are talking about inflation again. You know, how many times did we hear many of the people that we sit with each and every day say, hey, look, this is peak inflation. Well, if that was peak inflation, what are we now? Because we're higher. That I always find that interesting, those big, huge macro calls. First of all, you know what? We're traders, we're investors, but those macro calls are very difficult. And I'll tell you, one of the other things that I didn't like about a lot of people saying, oh, we've hit peak inflation was this. You can't say that without sort of a follow-up to that and say, well, peak inflation, but that doesn't mean we're going straight down again. And I think that was what was misrepresented for me. And that part I didn't like. Peak inflation, that's one thing. You know what? We're going to bump along up here for a while. That would have been a little bit better. But I'll tell you what, you look at crude, you look at what's going on. How about today with nat gas? We're in the mid-9s. Just go back and look where nat gas was, call it a year ago. Look at the price of oil. Where was that? Call it a year ago. I'm not talking about Ukraine, Russia. I'm talking a year ago. Take a look at where it was. Take a look at where it is right now. You can go into a lot of different other things, and it's not political. It's just the direction we have seen and the direction we've seen for quite some time in the energy space. I'm looking over at the 10-year. Starting to slip back down under 3. As it started to do that, the markets that were down triple digits for the Dow and down 50 or 60 points for the NASDAQ, as we started to see that move in the 10-year start to slip a little bit, started to see the market start to rise a little bit. We'll see if that continues to be something that's playing out, but it certainly has been playing out now for a while, where we're watching the NASDAQ and actually the Dow kind of shifting around a little bit within that range. Last I looked, I was looking at the Dow was down about 120 to about 160 points. NASDAQ bumping along in positive territory to some degree, then dipping. So call it up or down about 20 points. Now, obviously, things shift very, very rapidly. We're only in the first hour of trade. Industrials down about 1%, kind of holding on to that early on. Looking at financials, they were down about 1% early, hanging on to about that, down about 1%. The only thing that really moved a little bit, for the most part, was energy. Energy was flat early on. It started to move back up into a positive territory. Now, the price of crude was somewhere close to 120, then it slipped back towards 119, so that's something to keep in mind as well. There's a lot of different elements to this whole thing. Economic growth being questioned, you've got that. You've got the housing numbers. We heard from Diana Olick already today talking about that. The inflation surging. Yeah, I guess we didn't hit peak, did we? So anyway, that's all part of what we are seeing within the market. So where are we seeing individual names? Etsy, strong. Moderna, strong. Tesla having a really good day to the upside, at least in the first hour. Those Chinese names, once again, PDD, JD, and NetEase, all having another good day. Okta, Lucid. We are seeing a little bit in the EV space, a little bit more in just one second when I get to unusual. But Altria is one of the names. It's a little bit of a pull on the markets right now. Intel, definitely a pull. NXPI, Micron. When you look at the semis, they are a little bit more pressure in that area right now. Also, take a look at something like a Carnival Cruise. Been beat up pretty bad. It's going a little bit negative again today. Best Buy pulling back. We had Honeywell, HD. We had Triple M, all those names, just a little bit of a pullback. And I mentioned the financials, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, all those names, Bank of America, with a little bit of moving into the red. So that's the influence that we are seeing in the markets today. Got two unusuals, and then I will be on the halftime report, and there's a very good chance you might see me on Fast Money at 5 o'clock Eastern time as well tonight. So we'll see. Busy day. We'll see how things pan out. Dish Network, number one. It's trading 21.30. Pretty interesting, and I like the risk reward of this trade. But pretty interesting to see this. This is a stock that's been beat. Let's not deny that. But you take a look back in May, when they were in May early on, stock was looking pretty good. A lot of the losses that we are seeing from highs to lows, 52 weeks, came right there in the month of May and into June, as that stock has basically been, almost cut in half. Down there at 21.30, we had a buyer, 4,700 of the June 22.5 calls, 32 cents up to about 40 cents for those calls. So fairly inexpensive, gives a little bit of time, 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks, week and a half, and we'll see if the stock can actually make some sort of a rebound. Here's one that has been hitting. It was my final trade last week on the 5 o'clock show on Friday when we were going to maybe talk a little bit more about this name. Never got the chance to, but I did use it for my final trade because the volume in ChargePoint has been not only right, but huge, and they just keep coming after it. They started coming after this name at the end of May, early June, and it's just been huge volume on a daily basis, and they've been right. Stock was 12.5. Today, stock is almost pushing $16 a share. It was $15.80 when this happened. We had a buyer of the June 24th expiring. That gives you 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks, of the 16 calls. So basically attacking right at the money once again. 15,000 of these calls being bought. They were $1 to about $1.20. They're putting on a little bit of a hedge. They're selling the 19 strike calls against that. Don't worry about that. The strike that they are buying was the 16 strike on June 24th expiration. 15,000 of those. This name has been seeing volume. AJ and I had a chance to talk about this name last night when we were going through some of the technical analysis here at Market Rebellion on a free webinar. Hopefully you had a chance to see that. But I'll tell you what, it's just amazing looking at that chart and looking at what's been happening with that stock and the continued buying. At some point that ends. They might be wrong or they stop buying. But for now, they have continued to come back to ChargePoint. It seems like almost every single day in the last, maybe call it 8 or 10 trading days. Folks, have a great day of trading. I'll see you at noon.